Prepare yourself. It's Big News Wednesday. Well, it's sort of Big News Wednesday. Maybe it's like big falling apart candidacy day or whatever, but we're gonna be talking about that. You okay there with the hat?
Just trying to get this hat together, it's like it's a quick changeover from one show to the next.
It's a good hat for the Bears. Bruins?
There's a couple details that give you some insight. There's stripes. There's stripes going through that B.
Tigers.
A kind of tiger.
A cougar. Anyway, a puma. No. A mountain lion. No. I don't know. Okay.
A Bengal tiger. Bengals.
A Bengal. Okay, there you go. I was gonna start naming mythical tigers, of which I know more than sports teams. Anyway, Jayar Jackson, we're very glad to have you here and to have you fresh and rested because you have not been broadcasting for minutes now. So
no, not at all.
I expect you to be very fresh. Anyway, glad to have you here. And dear viewers, we've got a lot to talk about, including some of the most recent attempts to control this Herschel Walker. He paid for an abortion scandal. We got a bunch there. Donald Trump is looking to have Big Daddy Supreme Court save him from all of his troubles. We'll be giving you the rundown on that. Tragic update coming out of Iran. But maybe some good news too. A little bit of justice when it comes to a bad sheriff. Interesting electoral updates on one of the, I don't want to spoil it, one of the worst figures that often pops up on our show in a surprisingly tight race, it turns out. So we're gonna be talking about that as well as a whole bunch of other nonsense. If you drive an EV, do you spontaneously turn into a big wussy girl? We're gonna be debating it here on the damage report. And for balance, we've brought in a guy who likes EVs and a guy who would never be caught dead in one in Jayar Jackson. So
we debate live.
Exactly. 2 debaters enter, 1 leaves in an EV. Anyway, in advance of all that, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be great. And if you want to contact us, perhaps about EVs, you can do that and we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Jayar, are you ready to start the show?
I guess so.
Okay, well, we got a lot to get into in this first block, so we should probably do it. Herschel Walker's initial media appearances after the big abortion scandal broke with Sean Hannity, it was an absolute disaster. He had no defense whatsoever. And so Fox News decided we're gonna give him a second go at this. And we're gonna give him maybe even a more friendly interviewer in Kilmeade. So let's see how Walker responded to questions about this apparent massive hypocrisy.
What do you say about your son? Is he telling the truth?
Well, I love my son unconditionally, and that's where I've always been. I always loved him unconditionally. He graduated college a couple of months ago. He's now a young man doing his own thing, but his father's always there for him. I always will be for any of my kids, and I love them. I always support them, and I always have supported them, and I always will, and I love them unconditionally.
Okay, well, look, I can't speak for everyone in the audience, but I have to say that reassures me, and I feel like we've put this entire thing to rest. So let's move on to other news. No, wait, dude, like we're concerned about your hypocrisy in that you would like a national ban on abortion when it happened in a relationship you were involved. You not only encouraged someone to get an abortion, you literally paid for it. The answer to those concerns is not, did Christian Walker graduate from college? Do you support him like without conditions? That's not what people are wondering about. And a little bit of credit to Kilmeade, he actually asked a follow-up question on Christian Walker, the allegations he's made, which are not just about the abortion, but also about the fact that apparently he has threatened and attacked both Christian Walker and Christian Walker's mother. So here is that follow-up.
I think tremendous damage to you by coming out with those statements. Do you know why he's saying this?
Well, the damage he's doing is letting people know that the left will do whatever they can to win this seat. And I told you when I got in this race, I'm gonna win this seat. People see someone sitting here in front of you right now that's been redeemed. And I want America to know I'm living proof that you can make mistakes and get up and keep going forward, but you can only do it in this country right here. And you can only do it if we get this election correct this come November.
okay, bearing in mind that I'm not a Christian, and so I am guessing that Christians don't care about my view about how they should do their whole faith thing. When you have demonstrated that you don't actually believe any of the stuff you say you believe, the answer to that is not, well, by saying that I threatened to kill him and his mother, he proved that the left will do anything. Well, wait, is Christian Walker on the left now? Because he's the one who's making the claims. And then he goes on to say, well, don't worry, I've been redeemed. Because after all, I think that a truly humble Christian is one who responds to every criticism by saying, get off my back, I'm redeemed. And then says to a state of Christians, I'm redeemed, everybody can be redeemed, but you can all only be redeemed if you make me the senator of your state. Jayar, I'm an atheist. I feel like there's a couple of things there that aren't quite true vis-a-vis Christianity. What do you think?
They don't know. That's the whole point about this. You're not supposed to actually have a grasp on your Christianity, on your religion, on your connection with God, any of that. You're just supposed to have this superiority complex to believe all I have to do is say, I'm a Christian, I love my son. Well, did what your son say damage you? Why do we care what your son said damaging you? That's literally putting your political aspirations above everything else. No question of, did you really abuse your wife and your ex-wife and your kid? What is he saying about this? Does this say something about your character? They're glossing over all the reasons why this is a big deal, outside of the fact that he's a huge hypocrite along with the rest of the party, because he's not the only one. And we've already seen them start to defend him and say the things that they're gonna say. And they're showing it as well. It has nothing to do with the actual action that happened. It has to do with, is this hurting you, Herschel? Hey, is Christian Walker telling the truth? To which he didn't say Christian Walker, but he said your son. And I mean, I was actually kind of expecting to go, son. Because that's been the answer as we've gone through this over and over and over again. Which son are we talking about? Because maybe if we ask others, maybe they'll corroborate some of these details. I don't know. But the one thing that they could,
Jayar, I don't think that they've had enough actual like in-person time with him.
Yeah, and maybe he doesn't know either. Or there's a flat out lie. I'm gonna do something about this until I don't. You've been redeemed, and now God has brought you back. That sounds like an admission of guilt.
Yeah. And I would just suggest that if you're going to hold up humility as one of your core values, try having some. Say, I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, not even the distant past. I'm still making these mistakes and I'm struggling. I'm trying to do better. That sounds like humility, not get off my back. I'm good because I said that I'm redeemed. I screamed the word redeemed into the sky and now I'm good. Well, okay, Kilmeade is gonna try one more time to get to some of the specifics here. Let's see what Walker does with this last attempt.
He went on to tweet, he said, I stayed silent as the atrocities committed against my mom was downplayed. I stayed silent when it came out that my father, Herschel Walker, had all these random kids across the country, none of whom he raised. What do you say to that?
Well, what I say to that is just what I said. I love him unconditionally. I wrote about everything in my book. People can read the book. I wrote about it. I bared my whole soul out in the book. I was forgiven. The Lord has forgiven me. Like I said, I'm a Christian. I will always be a Christian. That's the reason I got into this race, because I see things that are going wrong that's not right in this country.
Okay, so again, that's not a response. That's strike 3 to put it in the parlance of sports, I suppose. That's not a response to the claims that you abused this child of yours and their mother. That's not a claim at all. Having had written about it in a book would be a real crappy defense if it was even true, because you didn't write about this stuff, okay? The secret abortion stuff wasn't in there. The secret kids, by the very nature of being secret, weren't in there. Now, had you said all of that, I still think it's really weird that religious conservatives in Georgia would choose you to be their avatar or whatever, but you didn't do that. That's a lie. Again, saying that I've been forgiven because the voice in my head said that I was, the same voice that thankfully pulled you back from the brink of murdering a person years ago. I don't know that I can trust that voice because it's in your head, which is chaotic territory. But anyway, one other thing, Jayar, I understand that this is gonna be just like example 30 of him having a very tenuous grasp with what's going on in reality. He goes on to say in the interview, they're trying to take this seat away. Go to my website, let's keep this seat. The seat is held by Raphael Warnock, a Democrat. They want to keep the seat, but you can't keep it because you don't have it. Your party doesn't. Do you think that you're the senator right now? Do you think that you're a senator? Do you think that the Republicans control this seat? He's got entitlement for something that's literally possessed by another man right now.
You would think someone who's so obsessed with competition enough to try and shoot himself playing Russian roulette would understand when you're competing for something and someone already has it, that you don't have it. If you're losing 28-10, let's put it more in sports terms again, like you said, you can't say, we've got the lead, we've got to hold on. Bro, you're losing. Yeah. You're losing. Maybe he's not. I mean, as far as political terms, maybe he's not. But if we're gonna talk about scores and what's been kept, as you pointed out, you're losing. You don't have it.
Yeah. We're gonna turn to what effect this might have for right now. But on the substance of your response, have you provided a good response to this claim that came with receipts? No, and no thinking conservative can say otherwise. They can say that they don't care, and I believe them. I don't think that they care, but this is not an actual response. They would never accept this from a Democrat. And by the way, what do you know? Walker's team knew about these allegations literally months before they came out. They knew that it was a chance that it could be revealed. Multiple sources from inside of his team saying that this was common knowledge amongst them. So spare me the lies. They say months before, advisors to a team were warning him that this could torpedo his campaign. One top GOP operative said it was, it's not gonna come out. You're being hyperbolic. The reaction was not, they're not gonna say that because it never happened. It was like everything else, people aren't gonna find out. That's what they think about somebody betraying that they don't actually believe one of these supposed religious values that they have. It probably won't come out. And they decided to hold their breath, hoping that the election would pass before it surfaced, hoping that they could pull one over on their voters and lie to them about what his supposed stance is on this. That was their strategy. And honestly, I think they might have been too worried because as we're gonna turn to, the Republicans just really don't care about any of this. They want to be in control of the Senate, in control of women's bodies. What Herschel Walker has done is neither here nor there. Now, you want to turn to some of the fun?
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm ready for this.
Okay, let's do that. With the abortion allegations coming out against Herschel Walker and his completely horrible response to it, we now get to play a fun game. Will any of this matter? And I've crunched the numbers and I've looked at this from a number of different angles, and my answer is hell no, it's not going to. No Republican cares at all about this obvious proof of hypocrisy. Herschel Walker, on top of the attempting to kill people multiple times, on top of the secret families and all that, was literally paying for abortion, supposedly the worst thing that you can do. Something that Republicans in multiple states say should land you in prison if you help someone get an abortion. They don't give a damn. So let's run through all the people who don't care about any of this. First of all, you have Donald Trump, who helped make Walker a candidate in the first place, saying Herschel Walker is being slandered and maligned by the fake news media and obviously the Democrats. Interestingly, I've heard many horrible things about his opponent, Raphael Warnock, things that nobody should be talking about, so we don't. Just kept talking about it. Nobody knows what you're talking about, but you brought it up. Herschel has properly denied the charges against him, and I have no doubt he is correct. They're trying to destroy a man who has true greatness in his future. Okay, so what do you know? He doesn't care. By the way, in advance of not caring, he didn't care. We're finding out from Maggie Haberman's upcoming book, Confidence Man. So she talked to him back in September, and here's what he had to say. Maggie Haberman says, I said that Walker has a complicated personal history, namely accusations of assault against women that worried other Republicans. And Trump said, he does. But do you know that it's a personal history that 10 years ago, maybe it would have been a problem. 20 years ago would have been a bigger problem. I don't think it's a problem today. Why is that? Maggie Haberman asked. Why do you think that's changed? because the world is changing. And Trump is right, of course. Yeah, this sort of stuff that in theory would have sunk a candidacy before, they now don't care about. Now, Trump he's not interested in why that has changed, his own personal effect on it, or what it truly says about Republican values or principles or whatever, that they're nothing, they don't exist. But I do think he's being honest, Jayar. What do you think?
100%. This is one of those things. Every time you see these scandals, you go back to the things that conservatives, Republicans hyperventilated over throughout history, throughout even somewhat recent history. Everyone knows the battles with Bill Clinton and the stuff they came after Hillary for, and the things they went after Obama for, which was nothing. But the things that they always went crazy over. Bill Clinton, bro. Just think about that process. And the things that they still glom onto every time they think and mention Bill Clinton for the disgusting things that he did when he was in office, right? But this is okay. This is fine. We can just go ahead and support this guy who, let's go ahead and say it again, virtually admitted that this is true. And if he didn't, it doesn't matter because we can see all the proof anyway. And many people who are defending him, as we'll see, even admit it too. They're like, even if this is true, that's the way of saying it's true, but I'm gonna go ahead and excuse this anyway. Now, by the way, as they're going through all of these normal processes of saying how okay this is, don't forget what they usually say when we're talking about these babies and the potential future. He could be the next president of the United States. This child that wasn't born could have been the president, could have cured cancer, could have changed the entire world. We'll never know because he paid for the abortion. Aren't you heartbroken? This life is gone. How is it that you're okay with this guy? We're gonna find out.
Yeah, that baby could have grown up to be the next incredibly hypocritical Republican candidate for Senate, but we will never know now. We won't. No, but again, you're totally right to prove that. They say it's murder. Remember that. It's not preferable or it's a gray area. They say it's literally murder. They believe, according to them, Herschel Walker assisted and paid for a murder. And they don't care. And it's not just Trump. Let's run through some other ones. The National Republican Senatorial Committee told Axios it stands by Walker. Ooh, what a surprise. The NRSC said they know that the Democrats are on the verge of losing the Senate, have cranked up the smear machine. Well, actually, that's not the machine that you should be worried about. It's the machine that does abortions that you supposedly have such a big issue with. But suddenly you don't seem to care. Ain't that weird? You have Mallory Carroll, spokeswoman for Women Speak Out PAC, whose job here is to support the stripping away of more women's rights. Mallory Carroll says Herschel Walker has denied these allegations in the strongest possible terms, and we stand firmly alongside him. Well, keep your distance. Remember, he does have a habit of putting guns to women's heads, so maybe keep a healthy distance. You've got the Senate Leadership Fund president, Stephen Law, who's committed nearly $40 million to this race, saying, we are full speed ahead in Georgia. This election is about the future of the country. Herschel Walker will make things better. Raphael Warnock is making it worse. Anything else is a distraction. Just distractions, things like values and principles and that stupid Bible. I don't care, you're a distraction, Bible. We're not interested in you. A church, be gone, you big architectural distraction. And then you've got him, Walker went to a prayer lunch yesterday and they gave him a standing ovation at the prayer lunch. Yay, you paid for an abortion. I know that I pretend that I care about that, but I really just want to be in charge. You got Rick Scott saying Herschel's gonna win, so they're gonna throw everything under the sun at him. He's focused on the right issues, like having some kids in secret and stopping the birth of others. He's focused on those. But I think that the best evidence of how little they care about anything is this video we're gonna play for you, which isn't only a Republican politician who doesn't give a damn about this, but a Republican politician who is living proof of how little any of these Republicans care about any of this. Here is Newt Gingrich.
I think he's a remarkable person. I think he's the most important Senate candidate in the country because he'll do more to change the Senate just by the sheer presence, by his confidence, by his deep commitment to Christ, by the degree to which he is, he's been through a long, tough period. He had a lot of concussions coming out of football. He suffered PTSD.
God damn, if that's the sort of endorsement Newt Gingrich gives to his friends, what does he say about his enemies? He's doing good considering his brain is basically tapioca pudding. You got to really grade on a curve here, America. Jayar, that's Newt Gingrich. a guy who we all know, I mean, I'm sure you covered back in the day, cheated on multiple wives who were literally battling terrible illnesses at the time. So stand up, dude. No word if he was standing up while he was cheating on his wives who were laying down in hospital beds. So that was really more of a metaphor.
I mean, and no one's gonna point that out. No one's gonna point out. So this is the principles. This is the person that you guys have advocating for true values, family values, children's values, wife values. There's a reason why they continue to support him, and it makes it really easy. I'm just wondering when every time one of these folks sticks their head up out of their hole and says something like this, there's not an absolute barrage of people going, well, what about what you've been doing, Newt? Like, it's very easy to point out. It's verifiable. Everyone knows about it, but we just don't talk about it. He says he's a remarkable human being. I would love to hear the racist names that Newt Gingrich calls Herschel Walker behind closed doors.
Oh, 100%.
That's just speculation.
100%. Yeah. I mean, look, I will say, I think Herschel Walker's pretty remarkable. The remarks don't have to be positive, by the way, but he merits remarks, I think. Also, one final point on this. Okay, so you should support in this race Herschel Walker because of his close commitment to Christ. Despite the threatening to kill multiple partners, despite apparently beating Christian Walker and his mom, despite the supporting the abortion or whatever, you should support him specifically because of his close relationship with Christ. And it's important that you do that so that we can finally rid that seat of the literal reverend who's holding it right now. I mean, like, if you can convince people that the truly Christian position in this race is to go for Herschel Walker over the literal reverend, then you can truly convince them of anything, I think.
Well,
Jayar.
John, you have to think about it. The reason they're against this reverend is because his actions don't back up what he says he believes in his Christianity. John, what are you talking about? Anybody who calls themselves a reverend and then stands behind policies like this that go against the church shouldn't be voted into office. Any Christian who says they believe in the sanctity of childbirth, no matter what, and the sanctity of marriage and sticking a family together should not be in office if he's lied about it. Enter Herschel Walker.
Okay, we're gonna move on to one more example because it's the most explicit. And I know that Jayar, you're familiar with this one, but we just have to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How little substance there is to their politics has perhaps never been laid bare as it will in this.
So does this change anything? I mean, do you want my opinion? You're listening. Not a damn thing. How many times have I said 4 very important words? These 4 words. Winning is a virtue.
And there it really is. That is what they care about. Dana Loesch, who I'm sure considers herself a Christian, or considers herself a Christian to the extent that she can use Christianity as a weapon to bludgeon her political opponents, believes that winning is the only important thing. This changes nothing. She even snuck the word damn into it, as if the possibility that she is damning her soul for all eternity is like floating around the back of her head. Don't worry, Dana Loesch, hell doesn't exist. You're gonna be just fine. I mean, you're awful, but once you die, you're gonna be in the exact same state as everyone else. You won't exist anymore. She did have more to say though, because it isn't enough for her to demonstrate live on TV that everything she's ever said about religion has been a complete opportunistic lie. She also needs to demonstrate what she thinks about other women. Take a look.
What I'm about to say is in no means a contradiction or a compromise of a principle. And please keep in mind that I am concerned about one thing and one thing only at this point. So I don't care if Herschel Walker paid to abort endangered baby eagles. I want control of the Senate. If the Daily Beast story is true, you're telling me Walker used his money to reportedly pay some skank for an abortion, and Warnock wants to use all of our monies to pay a whole bunch of skanks for abortions.
Okay, so we're gonna turn to the skank stuff in a minute. I love projection, Jayar. I know that you love projection. starting off your statement by saying none of this is a rejection of any principle. But I still have principles. I mean, I'm gonna move on to demonstrating how I don't, but I love to pretend that this isn't a complete abdication of every position I've ever held. It's not setting fire to the supposed value system that I preach that I have. No, this is not inconsistent at all. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, you can say that if you want to, but it is. It's like me saying like, none of this is gonna be inconsistent with my diet, but I am eating pie. Well, yeah, you can say the words, I guess, but it ain't up to you at the end of the day. Jayar, what did you think about that?
Anytime you have to preface your entire point with, listen, you guys, I'm not a hack. And everything that you've heard me say before this means nothing. Just listen to what I'm saying now, which honestly, it's pretty true.
Yeah.
She wants to preface it by saying, don't listen to what I've said before. That's what Republicans and conservatives always do. Don't listen to what I said, just worry about us winning. And as I said earlier, anytime you see all these layers get peeled off of their lies, there's always some kind of veil behind the reality of what they wanna say. But now that more and more people can see it, these things are exposed, there's receipts, Herschel Walker actually gets proven to be the liar that he is. They can't address those anymore. They can no longer say, this skank is lying about me, because she's got receipts. So now it just turns into, okay, who cares? Skank, but we don't care. We have no principles, vote for us because Team Republican. It's all that's left. Let's go back to the bare bones of it. That's what's left, and that's all they think their supporters care about. And guess what? They're right. That's what they're right.
This is amazing. You know, every once in a while you hear, and in fact, there's a case before the Supreme Court right now about you've got to give some sort of allowance, like that usually involves stripping away your own rights, to some other religious person because of their deeply held religious beliefs. When you see videos like this, can we dispense with the idea that deeply held means literally anything? Do some people have religious beliefs? Sure. Are they more special than other beliefs? I believe that the climate is effed and that we are making our planet in the future inhospitable to human life. Damn it, but I only base that on like what the scientists say, not on an ancient book. So I guess it's not deeply held. Can we stop pretending that these are fundamentally different beliefs worthy of more respect? Not just for you to hold, but to literally infringe on other people's rights? She, from the outside, is identical to every other religious conservative. She would say that she is. She deeply believes this. She's demonstrating that she doesn't. So why are they allowed to hold this morally and judicially superior position for stuff that they're willing to set on fire at a moment's notice if it gives them a little bit of a political advantage? And bear in mind, like if you're new to American politics, you might think, well, okay, this is dirty and it kind of sucks that they don't care at all who their candidates are, but I guess that's the way it's always been. Not really. I mean, there's a lot of bad candidates and parties look the wrong way too much, but like John Edwards did not get past his scandals. Al Franken was taken out of the Senate because of his scandal. Katie Hill resigned from Congress because of her scandal. Now you'll notice that these are all Democrats, that the Democrats forced out. Okay, so it can happen, but the Republicans, like most of them stuck by Roy Moore. It didn't matter how many dozens of women accused Trump of sexual assault and harassment, they stuck by him. Herschel Walker, it doesn't matter. They literally don't care, and that is actually different than it used to be. I know it's pointless, it's just a history lesson at this point, but it needs to be said.
They like to triple down. If they're cornered, they go harder for that bad point. So you may see banners that say "babies for Herschel." I'm saying it's not crazy enough to believe. And one small thing about what Dana Loesch is saying also with taxpayer money, and now it's my business because I'm paying into taxes into something I don't believe in. I had this long discussion with this guy in a grocery store who saw my Bernie healthcare shirt on one time a few years ago. Yeah. And he goes, I don't want my taxpayer money going to things that I don't believe in. I said, I don't believe in these endless wars. I don't believe in us paying off corporations for their mistakes. I don't believe in us continue to give all these rich people more and more tax breaks of my money that I pay into our system and screw everyone else over. Do you care what I believe in? Do you care that I don't want my money going to military contractors and people wasting my money over in foreign wars, killing other people? Do you care? He goes, no. I said, so why do I give a damn what you care about other money going to that I believe in? Why are you superior to me? It always goes back to whose world are we gonna live in? Whose country do they claim this is? They exclude other people and go, my money's not going to your things. Well, guess what? F you too. My money's not going to your things. Do you care now? They never care. Why do we?
Jayar, you got to start
they say they
carrying
believe in
around.
God.
Exactly. That is why you got to start carrying around a mic. So when you get in these debates in supermarkets, you can drop it. Okay, that was great. We do have to take our first break. We come back. Lots more to get to. Don't go anywhere. We'll be here in a minute. Okay, let's have some more fun, everybody. Donald Trump is guilty of many crimes. We all know when it comes to the stolen documents scandal, but he has had a lot of help along the way. Judge Eileen Cannon, a judge that he put in her position, has been doing everything she can to save him from accountability, to delay the process. But it's looking like she may not have enough power to actually drive this thing home, because Raymond Dearie is making her look really bad and really corrupt in his position as a special master. So Trump is looking for reinforcements, superior reinforcements. He is asking the Supreme Court now to overturn a federal appeals court ruling to allow the Department of Justice to review classified documents that have been seized from Mar-a-Lago. Trump's legal team in the filing asked that the special master, Raymond Dearie, be allowed to review the roughly 100 documents marked as classified that were found at Mar-a-Lago. So again, they went through Eileen Cannon. She tried to protect him, saying, no, DOJ, don't get your hands off those documents. Raymond Dearie can look at it. And Raymond Dearie is like, okay, I should be done in a week or two. And she's like, no, take until the holidays, I think. And the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals didn't think that made any sense. And they allowed the DOJ to continue to look at these documents. And so he's now going to the next step, the highest step, really. This is as high as it goes. He wants the Supreme Court to save him. They argue, by the way, and I love this argument, that the 11th Circuit lacked the judicial authority to stay the special master order authorizing that review, saying the 11th Circuit granted a stay of the special master order, effectively compromising the integrity of the well-established policy against piecemeal appellate review and ignoring the district court's broad discretion without justification. So their argument there is, hey, we can't just have things being appealed willy-nilly. Let's just stay the course. And in pursuit of that, hey, Supreme Court, could you appeal this thing pronto? Wait, I thought it was piecemeal. I thought you didn't want the piece of the meal. But no, now he does want the Supreme Court. And Judge Clarence Thomas, who is assigned to oversee emergency requests, says the DOJ can respond to Trump's petition by early next week. And then we will know if the Supreme Court might do a ruling or might do a hearing, or God only knows, Jayar, but they might get involved in this thing.
Sounds like judge shopping to me. Sounds like the same things that Donald Trump likes to always claim his judicial opponents are doing in court, because he's always in court. How dare they go after and find another judge that's gonna rule in their favor? This is third world country stuff, right? Or it's Donald Trump type of stuff. Remember that judge early on in his presidency, the Latino judge, when he said he's biased because of who he is? He says things like this all the time, like it's just normal. But then when he does it, it's just normal process. And in fact, in case people were thinking that his reasons for getting as many justices on the Supreme Court as possible has anything to do with trying to advance Republican principles or any kind of the judicial rulings based on that, yeah, partially so he can look like he cares about anyone else, even the conservative part of the country. It's always about him. He wants now to go to the Supreme Court to be his official stamp to get him off the hook yet again. He thinks the top court in the country is his. He thinks the country belongs to him and him only. This is what he believes. And he thinks other people think the same way because he can't get out of that storm in his brain where the brain is bouncing around amidst all the hurricanes.
The hurricanes that he has tried to direct out of the way with a Sharpie, and they just won't listen. Yeah,
scribbles on his forehead.
Exactly. He thinks it is his, and it isn't. Well, like 1/3 of it is, because he put 3 of the justices on it. And Clarence Thomas is married to a woman who believes literally every conspiracy theory about the big lie that anyone has ever scrawled on the internet. So I guess 4 out of 9, they seem unbiased. I think they should be able to rule on this. I don't think anybody should recuse themselves or anything. By the way, there's just one other, and we're gonna find out. Next week, we'll give you the update and we'll see. Maybe they just kill the whole thing. Maybe they don't though. Maybe they don't. They haven't weighed in yet. So that shows a little bit of discretion. Maybe they'll surprise me and maybe they won't weigh in. But in advance of that, obviously Donald Trump's legal team has received a lot of criticism, notably from the David Report, for their unwillingness to state what they claim in court. So you make claims about declassification or stuff being planted. So then why aren't you actually claiming that in court? And they've apparently heard that concern because in this same filing, they do actually talk about declassification. And so I guess that's a point that we now need to move on from. They finally addressed it. Although it occurs to me, maybe we should briefly read what it is that they said. So they say President Trump was still the president of the United States when any documents bearing classification markings were delivered to his residence in Palm Beach, Florida. At that time, he was the commander-in-chief of the United States. As such, his authority to classify or declassify information bearing on national security flowed from his constitutional investment of power in the president. And I am just sleepy enough from how boring that was that I'm not sure if they addressed it. Wait, they didn't actually say it. No, all they said was, like, in theory, he has a power and declassification is a thing. It's like if your wife is like, did you cheat on me? And you're like, well, I was in a building and I have a reproductive system as a person who was born. And in theory, sex is when a person has intercourse with another person. Does that satisfy your concerns? No, not at all. They're still not actually saying whether he declassified it or not. They just stated that declassification exists. They should be laughed at this court in the same way that they were the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, but it's probably not gonna happen.
And that sucks that he actually thinks the Supreme Court is the one that will not laugh him out, which would be a laughing stock for our country.
Maybe this will make sense to, I don't know, Kavanaugh, he's pretty drunk all the time. Like maybe it'll make sense to him, but it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, with that said, let's quickly give you this update. We got another story in the C block that we need to turn to, and I do like it when we get the occasional sort of quasi bit of good news. So let's turn now to this. A sheriff in North Carolina who had been caught on tape saying in explicitly racist terms that he was going to wipe out all of the black cops apparently in his authority has actually been pushed out of his position. That is the good little update that we can give you today. It doesn't often happen, but in this case it did. Superior Court Judge Douglas Sasser suspended this guy from his control over these 3 different counties. And in case you aren't familiar with what actually happened, we want to give you some of what was unveiled. And bear in mind, this is not just allegations. They have the tape. Take a listen.
First extension to Melvin Campbell or Lewis Harris's Calgary County. First one I found. Period.com. I'm sick of it now. Sick of these black bastards. Well, they try to clean the house and be done with it, period, and we'll start from there. Just giving you heads up, that's coming. When me and Boyd and Nancy go through it tomorrow, the first thing we see, they ain't gonna make it, brother. I'm telling you. They might as well come somewhere else to go.
Okay, so to be clear, because that is a little bit hard to make out, what he is saying is, and this is rough, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these black bastards. I'm going to clean house and be done with it, and we'll start from there. Tomorrow's gonna be a new effing day. I'm still the mother effing sheriff, and I'll go up and fire every goddamn, not even going to say part of that. You know what he's saying. F them black bastards. They think I'm scared. They're stupid. I don't know what else to do it. So it's just time to clean them out. There's a snitch in there somewhere telling what we are doing, and I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna have it. Well, what he doesn't have right now is his job anymore, and thank God. Jayar, this is what it takes for them to be pushed aside. It has to be that racist, and you have to have it on tape.
And also, yeah, exactly. If it didn't pop up on tape, there's no way they would have believed this. Because of course, every other name outside of, I guess, the correct ones for them to actually act like they care about. Because let's keep it real, they still don't care because they believe in these same types of things. You got this guy who's running the police, and he's talking about snitches. He's worried about snitches within the police department. What does that have to do with the black officers or the black personnel? Does he think that just black folks are born snitches? Or does he think that something about the makeup of their police department would push these particular black folks to then be the snitches on him? Does it still have anything to do with black folks, or does it have to do with something else that he believes is happening? Some kind of coalition of people against him. Based off of what, again? Dumbass sheriff? Their blackness? This is one of the things that I think people overlook. Whenever there's institutions that are controlled by racists, this guy headed the police department, keep hearing can fire folks, which he did. People that run companies, corporations, they can hire and fire people, which they do. Based off of their racism and in those opportunities for employment for these many of these folks that they control, then lose it, don't have opportunities at jobs, can't advance in this land of opportunity, then we complain about those black folks don't have jobs. This person can't get this going, can't believe they're out of work. What's up with these welfare queens? They push all this stuff, but they're in control of whether or not some folks have jobs. Then they complain about it. If you control the system and you got people like this in positions where they can control it, and then complain about the makeup of the employees and who they've excluded and why they're out of work, looks like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I hate these black people, get them out of here. Why don't these black people have jobs? Let's keep it real.
It's a great point. Like, you being worried about, in general, snitches or whatever, implies that you're doing something bad. You being worried specifically about black snitches implies you're doing something bad, and it's real racist. That's what it implies to me. You're not just telling on yourself, you're telling on yourself in a very detailed fashion with the way that you're acting right now. And thankfully, the tape did come out, and this guy has been pushed out of his position. So don't worry, America. All of the racist cops are now out of positions of power. Thank you, America. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna go to our second break. When we come back, we're gonna be turning to one of the most tragic bits of news I've seen in some time. We'll have that for you after this. Okay, everybody, I came across this video. Actually, several viewers sent it to me, and it just like burrowed into my guts. It's so terrible. So just warning, we're gonna be moving into really, really tragic territory here, but let's start off with this. That is Nika Shakarami, a 16-year-old who you can see in that video. It's just a regular 16-year-old filming videos, singing, laughing with her friends. And she is tragically another death in these ongoing protests in Iran. Apparently not only killed allegedly by law enforcement, but that was just the beginning of the insult added to injury that we're gonna lay out for you. So the family told the BBC that she was missing for 10 days after being picked up in one of these mass arrests by police, disappeared, basically. Let's put the correct term on it. She was disappeared by the regime for engaging in a protest, standing up for her rights and the rights of other women in Iran. And security forces then stole her body to bury her in secret. The last message that she apparently sent to a friend during the protest said she was being chased by security forces. Nika's family finally found her body in a morgue at a detention center. And her aunt says when we went to identify her, they didn't allow us to see her body, only her face for a few seconds. Then at some point, the security forces stole the body from that morgue and buried it somewhere. Every bit of this is absolutely horrendous. The fact that we would lose someone like Nika, who's just a regular 16-year-old, and who was brave as a 16-year-old, that would be willing to engage in these protests. We keep saying how brave they are. We're not just saying that because they're hypothetically brave. They're willing to face dangers that could happen. No, they're continuing to face dangers, lethal dangers that are happening. We don't know exactly how many people have died in these protests, but it's at least hundreds of people. Hundreds of people exactly like Nika who've been plucked off the street and in some cases tortured and beaten to death by this despotic regime. That's what's happening. We're actually gonna profile another one, another instance of this in just a second. But Jayar, I'm sorry, this is really rough. I know that you're a parent, but absolutely devastating what they did in this case.
It's one of those things that you imagine when they talk about that image and what these folks had to do when it comes to their kid that they get to identify for reasons, I think, just for more intimidation, honestly, because as we see the process go, why would they even do that? There's always a reason behind each one of these moves. And this apparently is to be like, look what we can do. And then guess what you can do about it. So think about that as you go forward. Maybe you want to tell your friends, maybe tell other family members that you don't want to never see again. So it looks like an intimidation factor on top of also taking away this particular girl because she's doing and saying things that they just don't agree with. It's and also it's another part of, I think, of a strategy when it comes to, we always talk about the children, the kids are gonna be okay here a lot. It's to make sure that next generation thinks twice about these revolutionary and changing belief systems that they might have. Hey, let's not go and try and change things again, you guys.
Yeah, 100%. They like the protests have been going on for getting close to 3 weeks now, and like I was just saying, it was already brave to go out. Here's the thing: tomorrow, this has already been known for a day, maybe 2 days. They'll be protesting today, knowing that this happens, that this has happened to literally hundreds of people. They're still going to go out. Every day it becomes more brave because there's so much more indisputable evidence that the regime is willing to do literally anything to stop this thing. And we're gonna return to another example in a sec, but I think about the supposed tough guys here in the US. Like the video that came out of Matt Walsh back when he was a wannabe shock jock talking about how you need to be willing to hurt and kill people as a right-wing person. He's gonna deny that he said that, but it's on tape, you can see it. He's never gonna do this. You think he would be marching in the streets? Like there are gonna be how many just 16-year-old girls marching in the streets today in Iran, knowing that people exactly like them are being literally killed by the police, and they're still gonna go out there. And those same fragile, weak, broken men like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and all of them will spend their day in a nice cushy studio, maybe doing segments on how women are too weak to serve in the military, or how there shouldn't be movies that laud the strength or bravery, the ingenuity, the courageousness of women. What a weird gender dynamic we have. In any event, I want to give you details of one more case like this. So in the BBC, they do a write-up talking about how authorities in Iran use the bodies of protesters as bargaining chips. So Haris Najafi was a 22-year-old protester who was shot dead on the 21st of September. Haris's sisters say she was shot in the head and neck with live ammunition and also birdshot fired from a shotgun. 2 pictures of her body show birdshot wounds. Sources close to the family say they wouldn't return the body for 2 days, asking her father to say she had died of a heart attack out of fear. So again, what they said all along, everybody who dies in detention died of a heart attack. This is how they get some evidence of that, by literally lying. I guess they had a heart attack after being shot multiple times. Anyway, in her final video message that was sent to friends, Haris said, I hope in a few years when I look, oh my God. I hope in a few years when I look back, I will be happy that everything has changed for the better. And she was apparently shot dead by authorities within an hour of that message. Most media is not even paying attention to this topic, let alone these individual stories. Like we all love stories of heroism, right? I love the MCU. This is more heroic than anything that is going to happen in any one of those movies or shows or stories or anything like that for literally years. Could we give that the attention that it deserves? Try to learn something from it. They're standing up against unimaginable evil and danger. Oh man, and they're still out there. They're literally protesting right now. I'm sitting here in the studio in Culver City and they're in the streets right now. Some of them are being hauled away to detention centers literally right now as we're doing this. And so we've got to show support. I know that it's hard for them to even see it because the internet has been cut off, but it just breaks my heart what's happening to them there. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.